That includes, and that disease thing stops too.
Everything stops because what you do is you're in perfect balance.
Anything that is not serving, yeah, exactly. Okay.
So what you do is when you're in perfect balance, you'll youth yourself down to what is for the body is its maximum image that it needs to maintain itself at. In other words, what levels are really the maximum levels? Because even physiologists have determined when they look at men or women, they know the levels that are the maximum, and then after a certain age period, you start declining.
Right.
So what happens is you don't do that anymore. So what you do is you achieve your life goals, and then at a certain point, you're still looking the same as you may have looked for maybe thousands of years. Syrians live roughly around 3,000 years. So what happens is when you reach that point, your spiritual guides, your physical family around you, your large pilot, as I like to call it, what happens is that group decides with you that it's time for you to recycle, so to speak. So what you do is you simply disappear. You take your whole body with you, you move to a higher energy level, and then spiritually you evaluate this life from beginning to end, and then you decide what you want to do after that.
You just answered the question that I was in my head about this whole process that today we call death.
Right.
And how do we handle that? No disease, we're fully conscious, no secrets, very few surprises. I mean, if you're driving along, you know something's going to come that's in a collision course, but there's no need to create that kind of a drama as a reason to leave the world. So, I mean, it's like, okay, we got to do some shifting here. I mean, perceptually, in terms of what how we see life, you know?
Right. In fact, the technology is such that if any accidents happen, you'll just bounce around. There's no... When a car is on a unified field with you, in other words, it's the momentum within you and the momentum within the vehicle are the same. With a car, it's independent. So when the car stops, you don't. Your acceleration, your momentum maintains itself, and you slam into parts of the car or whatever and cause all kinds of physical problems. With these devices, when it stops, you stop.
Because you're in a unified field.
Right. As a matter of fact, when these devices take off, you could be drinking tea or something.
It all goes with you.
And you don't feel the acceleration, and nothing happens. If it makes a 90-degree turn, the water or the tea or whatever doesn't suddenly spill as the cups float all over the place.
Well, you know something? Insects do that now. You ever get a fly in your car and you're driving along at 80 miles an hour, the fly is just right there? Why is that fly flying transversely and stuff like while we're traveling along? Because it doesn't know it should be against the wall.
Well, it locks in its resonance patterns with whatever it's around.
And that's essentially what you're saying will be happening here when we become one with everything, essentially. Wow. Now, you mentioned there are quite a few things here because let's talk first of all a bit. We talk about first contact. You mentioned one term and not another. One is you mentioned heaven, and there's also the Galactic Federation of Light. I'd like to talk about both of those.
Okay, what the Galactic Federation of Light is about is as physical angels, which are beings that are within physicality and are here to help regulate and unfold physicality. What they do as physical angels is to take the edicts of the divine plan and apply it to physicality. Heaven looks at the spiritual realm's divine plan and the divine plan of physicality and combines them both together. So what heaven is the creators, the co-creators of physicality, and we are physical angels from heaven that have lowered our frequencies to certain levels to be in physicality, to have bodies, or actually there's some that have actually what they call non-corporal bodies, but are still physical. And so no matter what level of frequency you're operating at, you're still a physical angel. And the basic number one credence of physical angels is to help unfold the divine plan in physicality, to help bring out what is the basic aspects of physicality so that it fully manifests according to the divine plan. The divine plan is simply the creator energy, God, whatever you want to call it, plan for how this creation is to unfold. And so your job is to act as an assistant to that whole process.
Facilitator.
A facilitator, right. That's a better word. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You're streaming Talk for Food on WebTalkRadio.net with Adam Abraham, and my guest is Sheldan Nidle of the Planetary Activation Organization, and we are discussing the world that is unfolding, that is happening right now, that is in the process of blooming, if you will, and some of the ramifications and some of the implications of that. Anyway, let us continue.
So we're at a point where we have for some generations been in limited consciousness,
right,
for some reason, because there's some history behind all of that.
Right, there's a whole long history, goes from Atlantis to now roughly around 13 millennium, where we basically got a large part of our DNA closed off. Matter of fact, according to geneticists, about 95 to 98% of all our genetic materials are latent right now.
Right, because they actually classified it as junk.
Right, they classified it as junk, and they're now beginning to see that as it activates itself, we become more conscious. So a lot of scientists that are into genetics, or genetic scientists, have decided two things. Because of the odd nature of it, this is the remnants that's working us from being limited conscious to being fully conscious. And the second thing they've discovered is because of the uniqueness of humanity, we are not really a creature that was created on planet Earth. We are extraterrestrials.
Yeah, I have contended and certainly felt that no one is native to here. The only thing I'd say that's native to here is the physical form itself, because it's made of Mother Earth, essentially. And in that respect, it's Earth's gift to us. You know, it's of her body. And then we, being the spiritual energy, essentially express ourselves through it. It's a symbiosis there, in a way of speaking. So, you know, that's my opinion.
It's very good. Well, actually, the basic physical form we took with us from other worlds, but a lot of the basic forms of in other words, what's created, what we are, is actually from this planet. So basically, you could say that we've taken the form. It's just like
we have the pattern. We are the pattern, and the material has basically organized itself according to that pattern.
Right. You can just look at our body, how it's created. You might say that there's like these master scientists that know the basic pattern and know what it takes to make it. And since they can't do the stuff from the other worlds, they are here. They have just modified it according to what is going on here on planet Earth, so that we are actually of this planet, and we are not.
Right. In the world, but not of it. I've heard that term a few times. Now, we're talking about change. We are shifting. Society is going to be different. What things do you see need to occur? We're consciousness being one thing, but with all of the geopolitical and social experience that you've had and studied, what things do you see need to happen on a social basis?
Well, first of all, our society right now, globally, economically, is not so much in decline. It's not so much a recession based on liquidity. It's basically a falling apart of the entire world system that was created at the end of World War II, and it's more than that. It's a functional dysfunction.
It's an implosion.
Basically, right. This whole society that we've lived in for the last 300 years, especially the period of the last 150 years, which is the time of the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to the present time. If you look at that whole period from about 1850 to the present, we've created a society, an economic system, even though that system was started a few centuries before that, a system that is completely based upon certain basic premises that are now not working. So what we can say is we can't just keep feeding the bank, so to speak, and hoping that at a certain point the motor will go. It's like an engine that's run out of gas.
Right.
And if you can just fill the tank up, it'll suddenly turn on and be as good as new, or maybe even better. What we have to just see is that what is needed is a new engine. So this society is beginning to see that whole process changing. Right now we have major leaders around the world, example being the president of Brazil,